Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's Friday afternoon, and we are finishing up Module 4 on Chapter 4 and moving on into Module 5 on Chapter 9 tonight. I just finished grading all of the Latin X assignments that were due on Tuesday, so I have graded those and sent them back to you. I think people did a nice job reading that article and thinking about it. As we move into next week, we're moving from the language chapter to theories about personal identity and personal construction. And the Latinx article kind of connects both of these concepts together. So the things you were just thinking about there, you will see them come up again in next week. So I like the bridge between the two of them. So far, the Tannin article, they aren't actually due for a couple hours yet, so not everyone has turned them in, which is fine. They're not due till 7. So far, there have been some good discussions about them, and once they're all turned in and I get them graded, I'll combine it all into one document and send it out to you, because that can be a good summary for you of the overall article. So I think we're doing great in the class. We're moving forward into the next chapter we're going to do, which is Chapter 9. And as I said at the beginning of the semester, we do a little bit of jumping around. I just think the flow makes more sense. For this week, we're going to do Chapter 9. We're only going to spend 1 week on this chapter. So you'll have the Chapter 9 quiz due at the end of this week. The first assignment is for you to find a newspaper article that is related to one concept from Chapter 9. And Chapter 9 talks about race, gender, sexual orientation, class, lots of different things, especially in the first half of the chapter. There are lots of interesting concepts there. You should not have any problem finding an article. For example, the Latin X article that we read from last week, something like that would work really well for this particular assignment. So the assignment is for you to find a newspaper article, not a blog, not a letter to the editor, not a scholarly reviewed article, but a newspaper from 2017 on any of these issues, or if there's something else in that chapter that really jumps out at you, you could do that too. It can be an opinion piece or an editorial, but not a letter to the editor. Then, in your discussion post, I want you to also put a link to the article in it, upload the link so that people can go look at it, or you can copy and paste the entire article into your post if that's easier for you. And then write one paragraph about how it relates to the concept or concepts in Chapter 9. In the section that is specifically called Society Shapes the Self is the part that you should try to focus on. So how does it relate to that? And that's for 6 points. Then for 4 points, you will do 2 replies to 2 other students. The replies need to be more than "I agree" or "good post." It needs to be more than a sentence. I'd like you to write in your replies about what you learned. Maybe you'll even go out and click out and go read the articles that they uploaded. And I want to see some originality, not just you copying what somebody else says to get those full points. Hopefully your classmates will write something that makes you think of something, and then you can write about that. So that's due on Tuesday at 7, a newspaper article. Due Friday at 7 then is an individual writing assignment that we're no group project for this week. This is all individual. And it's about the Johari window, which if you've taken interpersonal communication before, you've already learned. If not, this is your opportunity to learn it. And what you're going to do is read about the Johari window in Chapter 9, and then find one additional article that discusses it or uses it. For this article, it should be from the DVC Library Catalog, Academic Search Premier, peer-reviewed academic article. So for Tuesday, newspaper; Friday, academic. So 2 different articles, 2 different assignments. In your paper, so this is a 20-point assignment, so it's 4 or 5 paragraphs long. In the beginning, please define each of the parts of the Johari window. Once you read it, you'll understand what this means. There are 4 different sections of it. It looks like a window pane. So define each of those in your own words. And if you take things from the textbook, be sure you cite the textbook. Once you define all of those, then this is the personal part where you should list 3 things about yourself to go with each of the 4 parts. So that's a total of 3 times 4, 12 things. So there are 4 different parts of the window. In each window, write about 3 things, 3 things, 3 things, 3 things that are about you. And as you learn, you'll see that there's the hidden area, the unknown area. Write about things that you might potentially find out about yourself, and explain the kind of circumstances that would cause this in the future. Once you read the chapter, hopefully you'll understand what that means. And if not, please feel free to ask me. So that's the first 2 paragraphs. Start with defining it. Then the next paragraph applies it to yourself. Then the next paragraph applies it to the article that you found about the Johari window. So that's number 3. What are the main findings of your article? How did they use this window? And write about that. Excuse me, I have had a cold this week. And then cite your source for whatever that article as well. Then finally, in conclusion, write a paragraph about if you thought this was useful or not useful. Reading the article and applying it to yourself. Did you see that it might be interesting to yourself and that it might be a good tool that could be used for other things? Then at the end, have a works cited. Your works cited will have 2 things on it at least. It will have the article you found and then also the textbook. You might have more if you decide to do additional research and find more things. So that's 20 points, and that is due on Friday at 7. These are private, so I won't share what you write in them, so you don't have to feel any nervousness about that. Feel free to write about whatever you choose to write about. Then finally, Friday night, Chapter 9 quiz is due Friday night at 7 on the 29th. Okay, so I hope everybody's doing well. Feel free to reach out with me if you have questions. And I look forward to us moving on and talking about theories about ourselves and interpersonal communication. And just kind of from now on in the class, actually, we're going to be looking at these different parts of the field in more detail. And I think it's going to hopefully will be interesting for you. All right, thank you. Have a good weekend.